Hello, boys. For this week's story, I've chosen a book that my daughters used to love when they were your age, and it's called A Year in Percy's Park, and it's about Percy, a park keeper, somebody who looks after all the animals and all the trees in the park. Last night was very, very windy. It was a very, very bad storm. Not much rain, but lots and lots of wind. And this is a story about the day after a storm, and I hope you enjoy it. Percy the park keeper couldn't sleep. Outside his hut, a great storm was raging, with thunder and lightning and pouring rain. Percy wasn't frightened by the thunder, and he loved to watch the lightning as it lit up the whole park. He didn't even mind the rain. But there was one thing that Percy didn't like. He didn't like the wind. It blew down fences in the park and ripped off branches from trees. He didn't like it one bit. Oh dear, he sighed as he watched from his window. The wind tugged at the trees, making them creak and groan. It looks like I'm going to be busy tomorrow. He pulled his pillow over his head and tried to get to sleep. Percy was up early in the morning. The wind had stopped and the sky was clear. Percy loaded up his wheelbarrow with all the things he would need to make repairs and clear up after the storm. Then he set off to look at the damage. He felt happy as he took deep breaths of fresh, clean air. Perhaps the damage wouldn't be too bad. But he was wrong. Something dreadful had happened. A great big oak tree that had stood by itself on top of a little hill had been blown over by the storm. The giant tree had been one of Percy's favourites. Now it looked very sad, lying on its side, in a mass of tangly roots sticking up into the air. But it wasn't just one of Percy's favourite trees. Some of Percy's animal friends lived there. Now their homes were wrecked. Percy hurried up to the fallen tree. The animals were gathered there by the tree, looking very cross, but also very unhappy. When they saw Percy, everyone started talking at once. Percy sat down with his friends and listened as they told him how the storm had brought down the great tree. "And now we have nowhere to live," said the badger. "Some of us lived in the tree, and some of us lived under it, but we're all homeless now." Some of the rabbits looked close to tears, and the fox was very sniffy. Percy passed him his handkerchief, and the fox blew his nose. Percy stood up. "We'll just have to find you somewhere else to live," he said. "Come on, everybody, jump into my wheelbarrow." The animals felt much better now that Percy was with them. First he took them to the pine wood, but nobody wanted to live there. "Too dark," squeaked the mice. "Too gloomy," said the hedgehog. So Percy took them to the shrubbery, but nobody wanted to live in the shrubbery either. "No big trees," complained the squirrels. No big roots, no big roots," moaned the rabbits. "Never mind," said Percy. "We'll try across the stream." Percy began to push the heavy wheelbarrow, loaded with all of the animals, over a little bridge that crossed the stream. But as he got to the middle of the bridge, two things happened. Percy stumbled and tripped, and the wheelbarrow decided to see what it would be like to be a boat. Splash! Suddenly, Percy and his friends found themselves drifting downstream to where the stream opened into a lake. Percy stood up, shook himself off, and looked around. "We'll have to paddle back to the shore," he said. But then something caught his eye. "No, wait," said Percy. "Let's paddle across to the other side of the lake. I have an idea." The animals looked a little bit puzzled. What was Percy up to? Slowly, they paddled the wheelbarrow across the lake. "Here we are," said Percy. The squirrels jumped ashore and tied up the wheelbarrow to the roots of an enormous hollow tree that grew by the water's edge. "Now, this is my plan," said Percy. Everyone gathered around as Percy explained his idea. "Is everybody clear?" Everybody nodded. "Then let's get to work." Then they began by unloading all of Percy's tools and planks of wood from the wheelbarrow. Then Percy explained what he wanted each of them to do. He showed the badger how to use a saw. He showed the squirrels how to knock in nails. The fox drilled holes and the rabbits screwed in screws. The mice were kept very busy fetching and carrying for everybody else. At lunchtime, they took a short break to see and share some of Percy's peanut butter sandwiches. Then they got busy again. At long last, their work was finished. A very tired Percy stood back to admire what they had done. Now the squirrels had a new home, and so did the mice. The rabbits had a new home, and so did the badger and the fox and the hedgehog. In fact, every one of Percy's friends had found a new place to live. "Well done, everybody," said Percy. "This is the best tree house I've ever seen." "What about you, Percy?" called the badger. "Aren't you going to come and join us?" Percy smiled. "I think I'll stick to my old hut," he said. "Besides," said Percy, taking an acorn out of his pocket, "I still have one job left to do back on the little hill." Well, boys, right at the end, Percy held up an acorn and said he had one job left to do. What do you think he was going to do on the little hill? And why do you think he was going to do it? Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.